or to produce any document that you are required to produce in connection with the subject matter of the inquiry, notwithstanding the fact that the answer or the document could incriminate you or expose you to criminal or civil proceedings or damages. You are, however, protected in that evidence given under oath or affirmation before a House or a committee may not be used against you in any court or place outside Parliament, except in criminal proceedings concerning a charge of perjury or a charge relating to the evidence or documents required in these proceedings. I have been informed, Prof, that you have opted to take the oath. Is that correct? Will you please repeat after me, sir? I swear by Almighty God.
I swear by Almighty God.
That the evidence I shall give.
That the evidence I shall give.
Will be the truth.
Will be the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
Please raise your hand and say, so help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you very much, sir. Advocate Vanara, it is just past 1:45. Can we agree that by 20 you conclude with your business and then we open it up for general discussion?
Chair, before Advocate Manara maybe speak, I'm not sure that as you opened the meeting, I thought that you'll be able to deal with the processes that led to Prof to be here now, as you have dealt with the Geldenes earlier. I thought it's very important that you sort of outline those issues. I thought it was very important that you sort of outline those issues that we dealt with that led to Prof to be here today. It is not just a normal appearance in our take. I thought maybe, if not, maybe we can deal with it when we deal with questions.
I'm sorry. I should have before I allowed Advocate. I apologize, Prof, and I apologize to the committee. Maybe I should at this point afford you an opportunity to say something, if you so wish, Prof. You'd recall that initially we had scheduled you for around about the 14th of January. Through your office, you then came back to us and you asked to be slotted in roundabout or before the 9th of January because you were going on, or you were not going to be available post the 9th of January, 9th of December, I beg your pardon. Initially it was the 14th of December. You requested it to be brought forward to no later than the 9th. We acceded to that request. On the original schedule, you were going to appear. You were then going to appear on the 8th as to accommodate your request for the 9th of January. Today is the 13th of January. December, I beg your pardon. Let me start from scratch. Originally, we had scheduled you for the 14th or 13th of December. You made a request to bring it to by no later than the 9th because you were not available. Committee acceded to that and we slotted you in for the 8th. On the 8th of December, you did not appear before this committee. Today is the 13th of December. You before this committee because this committee, and by extension Parliament, had to go the extra mile of summoning you to come here. Now, I don't want to talk about whether it was right or wrong or anything. Members asked me to try and explain why we are where we're at now. So I'm hoping that members and everybody understands why it's not the 8th and where we are now. At this point, Chair, Prof Maguvhe. And as I also gave opportunity to Ms. Geldenhuys, if she so wished, maybe I should give you a few minutes to say, if you so wish, to say anything to this committee. If not, then we will hand over to Advocate Vanara, but I'm not sure. I will give you a few minutes if you so choose, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I received 3 days to appear before this committee. If my memory serves me well, the initial date was the 7th of December. And I believe Mrs. Geldenhuys might be having that correspondence. Then it was later moved to the 14th. That is when I indicated that from the 9th onwards I'm not available. Then it was later again moved to the 8th. On the issue of working out on the 7th, it was because my legal team requested an opportunity to address the committee in relation to my concerns. There were 4 main concerns, namely that I will need legal representation, that I will be given documents, and that I will be able to cross-examine witnesses as well as to get witness statements. Now, the legal team couldn't raise those pertinent issues. And then I had to walk out to consult them that in light or in view of what transpired, what do we do? Because I don't have the documents and I have to appear tomorrow, which was the 8th. That was in no way disregarding Parliament, but I felt that really my rights as a visually impaired person were not being protected by this very House.
Thank you very much, Prof. And thank you, members. That sets the scene. And maybe we should say if there was anything untoward from our side, we will apologize, but I think that we were within our rights, and I think we must also accept the points that you make, Chair. We will, in our deliberations as a committee, look at all these things together. I don't think there should be a pronouncement today on who's right or who's wrong or whatever, but at least it has been put out there in the open, and we will then deliberate on them when the time is right. And again, just to reiterate that once we've done our initial report, it will go back to you, Prof, and to the rest of the board to also input and or to strengthen. So this is by no means the end of the process, but at least it's out there and we are able to, as adults, work on all these matters. I want to advocate. It is 5 minutes past 5. Can you, at the absolute latest by 5:30, be done, and then members will have an hour until 6:30, and we would have made up our 2 hours. So 5:30 is your absolute latest, and the members will then have an hour, and we will have still made our 6:30. We'll still have 6 o'clock, not 6:30, 6 o'clock, or 6:30 at the absolute latest. And Honorable Kwankwa, you'll be the first one, so you'll prepare yourself. When we start, you'll be the first one, sir, and we'll end with Ms. Killian. Advocate Vanara, up to you.
Thank you, Chair. And, good afternoon to you, Prof.
Afternoon.
Can you, for the record, just state your full names?
I am Mbulaheni Maguvhe.
Oh, I beg your... We did swear, didn't we? Yes,
No, you
swearing
did.
in.
You did.
We did do the swearing in. Members are worried that I didn't swear in. Are you guys comfortable? We did do the swearing in. Any witnesses that we did the swearing in? Yes, we did. We did, yeah. Are you happy? Sorry about that, Prof Maguvhe. Sorry about that.
Sorry, Prof. If you can just, for the record, state your names.
I am Mbulaheni Maguvhe.
Thank you, sir. You brought an interdict application, which was well within your rights, to try and prevent this committee from conducting this inquiry until the issues you had raised were resolved. Is that correct?
The issues that I raised were not resolved according to me.
You brought an application in the Western Cape High Court to interdict these proceedings. Is that correct?
It is.
Can you share with the committee whether those proceedings were brought in your personal capacity and that you would pay the legal fees together with the legal costs that the court has ordered you to pay from your own pocket? Or are those expenses going to be paid by the corporation?
This is precisely what confuses me. And my legal team wanted to also get clarity in this one. Whether I am here in my personal capacity or chair of the board. So until I know my status, I can't give you the correct answer on this one.
I understand, Prof, you have issues with this committee that you want to clarify. But your case at the Western Cape High Court, you instructed an attorney to brief a whole host of counsels to bring an application. When you were instructing those people, who in your mind was going to pay for those legal costs?
Until I attended the first sitting of this committee on the 7th, I believed that it is SABC that should bear the costs. But like I say, from what members of the committee were saying made me confused.
From your response, I seem to be gathering that you were acting on behalf of the SABC in your mind at the time. Do I get you correctly, Prof?
Correct.
Now, Prof, the truth is that you're the only remaining non-executive member of the SABC board. And that you yourself, whilst a chairperson, you are not an executive chairperson of the board. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That you on your own do not have an authority to take any legally binding decisions or resolutions on behalf of the board. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, how could you conceivably think that you had the authority to instruct attorneys and to brief counsels to bring an application absent a board resolution?
The DEF that is in place gives the executive the authority to take such decisions, and I believe they took that decision.
So the executives took a decision on behalf of the board. It's not you as the chairperson of the board that took the decision.
I didn't take that decision. However, I must also indicate that the notice that I got from this committee clearly said I'm entitled to legal representation. And I believe that because the committee or members of parliament understands how these things work. Hence, the advice that I could have legal representation.
Prof, I'm just interested in knowing the person that took the decision to instruct the attorney to brief counsel to bring the application. Was that decision taken by yourself, Prof, as the chairperson of the board, or was it taken by the executives in terms of the DEF?
I wouldn't know because I wasn't there when the decision was taken. However, after receiving the notice, I engaged the SABC legal team, and they are the ones who have sought that service, and perhaps they would be the ones to give you that information as to what happens if the board is not there, yet this kind of service is needed.
Prof, on the meeting where you walked out, you have indicated that one of the reasons was that the documents that were given to you were not in Braille, some were not even given to you. Is that correct?
It's correct.
You are aware that at that meeting, the committee was to interrogate or get presentation from the Public Protector's Office, the AG's office, as well as ICASA. Is that correct?
It's correct.
These documents, the Public Protector report, would have served before the SABC board. Is that correct?
It's correct.
The AG report would have served before the board, before it would have gone to the shareholder for presentation at Parliament. Is that correct?
Correct.
The ICASA ruling dealt with serious matters that affected the SABC in respect of a policy decision that was taken by some of the executives. Is that correct?
The question again, please.
The ICASA ruling on the banning of or the decision not to show a violent service delivery protest. That decision was against the SABC and the board, is that correct?
Correct.
At some point, that document would have preoccupied your mind, either individually or collectively, is that correct?
Correct.
These documents would have come to you in a typed format, not in Braille. Is that correct?
It's correct.
And how did you engage with those documents?
I engage with those documents in Word format. However, I must also indicate that for an exercise like this, I can't be engaging them in Word format. And it's highly impossible for me to memorize everything. That is why I need Braille documents so that I can refer to. Further, I would have preferred to get their presentations so that I can just go and extract information that is necessary for my response, because Braille documents are bulky. As such, I won't be expected to be carrying boxes and boxes of Braille paper. Just to give you an example, the Delegation of Authority Framework is in 2 volumes. It's very big. So can you imagine the Public Protector's report, the AG report, and other documents? What volumes and the size of the documents I would have carried with me here.
Prof, Ms. Bessie Tugwana was appointed as the acting COO. Is that correct?
It's correct.
Was that appointment on the recommendation of the board that you were leading at the time?
It's correct.
The resolution to recommend her appointment, was that by a board that corrected?
Yes.
Who was at that meeting?
Who was in that meeting?
Yes, where the board took a decision to recommend Bessie Tugwana as the acting COO, to make that recommendation to the minister.
I think all non-executive directors and executive directors.
Okay, for you to get a quorum, you need 9 members. Let's start there. We now know that Mavuso had declared that there was no meeting where he participated on the decision or resolution to recommend Ms. Tugwana. Naidu said the same. At that time, there was 9 of you. Now, how could you then have corrected when the Broadcasting Act says you need 9 members to correct, both non-executive and executives?
On this one, the company secretary, I hope, has the minutes of who, and the attendance register of who was present or who was not. What those board members have said, I can't speak on their behalf, but I believe they were there.
Prof, let's quickly move to the meeting of the 7th of July 2014, when your board, at the time you were not the chairperson, Ms. Chabalala was the chairperson. Were you at that meeting, that special board meeting?
I was.
Did you vote for or against, or did you abstain when a matter was put to vote to decide on how the matter was to be handled?
I think I voted for, unless if minutes say the contrary.
Okay.
Because it's a long period. We are talking about 30 months or so ago.
your recollection says you voted for his appointment.
I'm saying I voted for, unless if the minutes say the contrary.
Okay.
It could happen that maybe I didn't vote for, but if my recollection is clear, I voted for.
Now that decision, Prof, that decision of the board had the following consequences. It ignored the remedial actions of the public protector. Is that correct?
Come again, please.
The decision of the board to employ Mr. Motsoeneng as the permanent COO ignored or went against the recommendations of the public protector. Is that correct or not?
It's correct.
Okay.
However, I think I need to qualify this. Though it went against the public protector's recommendation, at that time, most of us were not even aware that her recommendations were binding. It was only after the Constitutional Court ruling that they even referred to SABC, that they were binding.
It's fine, Prof. We're talking about the net effect, the consequences of the board's decision. Secondly, the board's decision to employ Mr. Motsoeneng had profound financial implications for the organization in this format. You were taken to the Western Cape High Court to challenge that decision of the board. Is that correct?
We were taken to the
Western Cape High Court, which ultimately declared that decision unlawful and irrational. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
You paid lawyers for that decision to protect and defend that decision. Is that correct?
Yes, because that matter was taken on review.
Before
the public protector's matter was taken on review.
Okay.
That is why we had to defend and protect.
Let's just be accurate, and perhaps we'll get back to that. But the review only happened recently. Let's focus around the consequences. I'm just following the consequences of your decision. You appealed the Western Cape High Court decision. You went to the Supreme Court of Appeal. Is that correct?
It is.
At great expense, because you've had to instruct an attorney to brief counsel. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that was at the SABC's cost. Is that correct?
Correct.
And part of the monies that makes the SABC to run is public money. Is that correct?
Part of?
Part of the budget of the SABC is derived from taxpayers' money.
There I will beg to differ with you if we say taxpayers' money.
So, Prof, are you disputing that the SABC receives allocation from government?
No, I'm not disputing that.
Okay, let's leave it at that then.
Okay.
Let's leave it at that. That decision of yours, the Supreme Court of Appeal did not even have the appetite to deal with it, just dismissed it outrightly. Is that correct?
It's correct.
Now, you've had to travel all this route. Let's go back to what happened at that meeting. Because there's evidence before this court that your colleagues warned you against that decision. why did you ignore your colleagues who were raising issues of contravention of the policy? We've now heard from your company secretary that you've also ignored her. You didn't want to listen to her. Why did the pleas and the cogent reasons that were advanced by your colleagues fall on deaf ears, particularly that you voted for his appointment?
Yes, the argument put forward by the then chairperson convinced most of us, myself included, that the COO was doing a sterling job. Hence, I have voted for. I was convinced that he was doing a sterling job.
Given all that I've said, that there's been a huge cost for the SABC for these cases that the board has lost, why shouldn't particularly those directors, including yourself, who voted for his permanent appointment, not be personally held liable for those costs?
I would say even those who voted against are board members. And we take a decision, and if the majority says the person should be appointed, then that binds also those who voted against, because they are board members. And it's common that people in a meeting, there would be those who support and also those who oppose. But there are also instances where a unanimous decision is taken. So I wouldn't say because people voted for, they must be held accountable. It is a board decision. It doesn't exclude others from the decision that was taken.
Prof, you were not here earlier this morning, but I want to quote from what your fellow colleague said before this committee. And this was in reference to your board as a collective. That is Professor Khumalo. You know him, eh?
I do.
He's given us a statement, and page 4 of the statement, this is what he's had to say on the last bulletin. The board was inexperienced, there was inadequate training, there was indiscipline, there was familiarity, it was misdirected, there were bad corporate politics, internal power contest, poor or diminished business ethics, and possibly criminal motives, which were amongst the causes of the governance failures at the SABC. That is an indictment. Would you agree with me?
That statement to me, I don't think is correct.
The question is, Prof, if this statement were to be true, it would be an indictment to the board that you at some point led. What is your comment to that?
I'm not too sure whether he made this statement referring to my leadership. Maybe he could have clarified as to which period is he referring to. Because as far as I'm concerned, I worked with men and women with with expertise, with experience, who were dedicated and devoted to what they were doing. Perhaps he's referring to a period prior my chairpersonship.
If he were to refer to a period prior to your chairpersonship, would you agree with this statement?
Maybe that is what he saw. And still, I wouldn't be the right person to agree or disagree, because I'm not sure what he's referring to. Perhaps he should have given us examples as to what things is he referring to. So I don't want to lie and say I would have agreed or disagreed, because I don't have the facts at my disposal.
Prof, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I know you had indicated to me that you have a statement, but that statement is in Braille. Do you want to hand that statement in?
Maybe I should ask a question to say, do I use my discretion to hand, or am I obliged to?
No, it's your discretion, sir.
No, if it's my discretion, I wouldn't bother handing it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Where are we starting? Kwankwa, 7 minutes, sir.
No problem. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof Maguvhe, for that input. You see, if you look at the Broadcasting Act, number 4 of 1999, from which the SABC draws its mandate, one of the sections there, I think Section 7, deals with the establishment of the corporation, and also highlights the fact that SABC, as an institution in the corporation, the state is the 100% shareholder. So it belongs to the people of South Africa. I've had this point often bandied about, even during the press conference, by some of the executives, who were saying that in light of the fact, they were sort of saying that most of the money that SABC has or derives or generates on an annual basis does not come from the taxpayer. Right? Now, if you look at the financials of the SABC, that might be true. But the impression that one got from that statement is that in view of that fact, they should not, in the true sense of the word, be accounting to Parliament. What I don't understand, and the question is that, if the state broadcaster is a national asset, an institution of the state and the people of South Africa, if you use that institution to generate revenue, whether you derive that revenue from the commercial aspect of it or from the taxpayers directly, it means that the revenue in its entirety belongs to the people of South Africa. And it is therefore the revenue that is due to the taxpayers of the country. Now, why have you guided the senior executive, or do you share the sentiment that since the revenue, that some of it, a major aspect of it, a major portion of it comes from the commercial aspect, then they should not be accounting per se to the people of South Africa? The executive in mind even said that he was correcting the people of South Africa, that the money does not come from the taxpayers per se, so they are not wasting taxpayers' money. That's the first question.
I don't recall the executives saying that the SABC money could be wasted, as it is not state's money. All I know is that 85% of the money that is being generated is generated commercially, and 13% would be your license fees, and 2% would be grants. So I'm not aware that the executives are squandering this money based on this belief.
Thank you, Prof. They were correcting what they viewed as a misconception or misunderstanding around how the SABC is funded, therefore implying that there's no need for them to be scrutinized on that, if you listen to that soundbite. But anyway, I think you've answered the question. Prof, the other very important issue here is that you interdicted this process. If you look at the presentation that was made by Professor Kumalo this morning, I want to preface that question with that. He talks about the failure to observe the differentiation of functions and the management of boundaries between the board and the executives, because the board has to oversee and supervise the organization and so on, right? Which is something that is public knowledge. But wouldn't you say then, in the absence of a resolution that passed your use of the public broadcaster's money for illegal fees, that you've already blurred the lines between the executive, because you have said it yourself that it is the executive that approved the resources that you're using currently for illegal fees?
I don't think that I understand your question.
Prof, a decision, for instance, if a decision were to be taken, say under normal circumstances where the board is fully operational and fully functional, if there were any legal costs that were to be paid for by the entity for a board member, that would have to be done via resolution by the board, isn't it? Now, in this case, it is the executive that actually took a decision, in your absence, because you're not even part of it, because you're a board member, in your absence, to fund the legal cost of this entire process, your process. Now, I'm saying, is that not an indication already that the lines have been blurred between the executive and the so-called board that exists of one person right now?
My answer will be the same as the earlier one, that I believe the legal division of SABC have given them legal advice as to how to deal with this matter. I hope they have arrived at that decision with the legal advice given to them.
Thank you, Prof. You said in your response earlier that when you were endorsing as a board the decision to appoint the COO rather, it was taken even though there was a public protector's report. It was taken because at some point you wanted to take the matter on judicial review. That's a very damning indictment where there's a recommendation, a clear public protector's report recommending that. You completely ignore it and hope that you will return to the matter at a later stage when it has been taken on judicial review. In your view, is that proper leadership and proper governance of an important institution?
I have said at that time, the majority of people didn't know that the recommendations by the public protector were binding. So we sought legal advice, and we were indeed advised to take it on review. So I still say that is what happened.
The very same, I put it to you, Prof, that the very same judgment on which people based that decision actually said, even though it implied, it actually stated explicitly that they could not be binding. I can't remember the judgment's name, the details of the judgment, but it also said that the recommendations of the public protector cannot just be ignored. They needed to be taken on judicial review. So there's no way that you could have been following or basing your decision on that. But a separate point altogether, Prof, has to do with the ICASA decision, where SABC, for instance, has failed to comply with the recommendations of ICASA around the issue it has to do with material that shows violence and so on. There was a presentation by ICASA a couple of weeks ago here in front of this committee which says, to date and despite numerous written demands to the SABC to comply with the order, the licensee has failed to demonstrate compliance with the order and has not provided the board's resolution to this effect in line with the decision. Why has that not happened?
I'm hearing this for the first time, that we have not complied. And this was never brought to my attention.
Are you hearing it for the first time? If you have complied, what have you done, sir?
Pardon?
If you have complied, you're saying you're hearing it for the first
What I
time.
know is that we were instructed to withdraw the statement that we made on violent visuals. And as far as I'm concerned, we did withdraw. But that we are not complying, I don't know, because I don't even see those violent visuals.
Prof,
I rely on radio, and that is why I'm saying this was never brought to my attention.
was it a statement or a board resolution? I think there's a difference.
It was a statement.
Thanks, Conker. Honourable Conker, you'll have a second bite, and members can follow up on that one. Honourable Mokoena.
Thank you, Chair. Let me greet you, Professor Maguvhe, and let me express our gratitude for your gracing us with your presence. You've already said that you understand the role of the board and of the SABC as a body that accounts to Parliament. Am I correct in my interpretation?
You are correct.
Thank you very much. I then need to understand what legislative piece of work did you rely on when you decided that you could not attend this ad hoc committee and that you would do everything in your power, including taking legal means to stop processes of Parliament from happening?
I relied on the supreme law of this country, which is our constitution.
You are aware that you are also bound by the Broadcasting Act?
Yes, I'm aware.
Thank you, sir. You then went and called a press conference after your dramatic walkout of Parliament. Called a press conference in which you said that you would not attend Parliament to the extent that this Parliament had to issue summons to get you to come and account. On what legislative piece did you rely on in calling such a press conference and making such a remark?
I'm not sure whether individuals have to rely on pieces of legislation when they have to call press conferences. This is for the first time that I'm hearing about it.
Okay.
So I relied on the fact that citizens of this country have the right to freedom of speech.
That is fine. You then, as we now heard from your company secretary, you were advised that it is correct for yourself now, not in your personal capacity, but in the capacity of the so-called chairperson of the board, or just a member of the SABC, to hand in the documents that Parliament required. You did not listen to that legal opinion. In fact, you then relied on an external opinion to advise you that those documents you could not hand in. On what legislative piece did you rely on when you made such a decision?
Maybe I should correct the Honourable to say the letter that I have received, which invited me to appear before this committee, didn't address me as the so-called chairperson. And I think if it addressed me like that, I wouldn't have availed myself. It addressed me as the chairperson.
That is fine.
So if I have to respond as a so-called chairperson, then it will be difficult for me to do so.
That is
fine.
Because
because then you are complicating what I've raised before, whether I am here as the chairperson, the so-called chairperson, or in my personal
In your
capacity.
personal, that is fine. Let me then ask you a different question. As a chairperson of the SABC, you were advised by your legal representative, the company secretary, to say that you should hand in documents that were required by Parliament. You ignored that advice and went outside of the SABC to seek legal advice. What legislative piece did you rely on?
That one, perhaps, if my legal team was here, would be the one to respond to, because they deal with law. But
no, sir, I'm asking you in your personal.
No.
You are the one who went to them to ask for opinion. What legislative piece did you rely on to go?
When you ask for opinion,
Yes.
it's not a matter of relying on a legislative on legislation, because if you already know law, what would be the use of seeking legal advice?
Okay.
So
That
I
is
sought legal advice on the basis that I'm not a law expert.
That is fine. What is your relationship with Mr. Motsoeneng outside of the formal relationship that you have at the SABC?
None.
Did you not exchange monies, business transactions, nothing?
No.
Thank you very much. Now, you say that you did not know, or the majority of the people did not know, that the public protector's remedial actions were binding. Now, when you became the chairperson of the SABC, did you not seek legal advice? We know, for instance, that because your company secretary just told us now that she knew that the remedial actions were binding, but she could not say it in a meeting before. Now she knows. Did you not go to her to get advice on the appointment of the COO?
I didn't, because at that time I was the deputy, so it would have been the responsibility of the chair to lead us in that direction.
No, sir, I'm asking you when you became the chair.
No, but already when I became the chairperson, he was appointed. Remember, the meeting that is being referred to took place on the 7th of August 2014, and I only became the chairperson on the 19th of June 2015.
The DA took you to court, took the SABC to court for that appointment. At that point, did you not seek legal advice, at least from your company secretary, as to the legality of that appointment?
The company secretary would attest to the fact that if there was someone in the board who sought advice from her, it's me. We also did that through a presentation by our legal division. So I also made sure that legal advice was sought.
So you're saying to us that the company secretary was lying to this parliament when she said that she was aware that the remedial actions of the public protector were binding?
I didn't hear her saying that, so I don't want to commit myself to what I haven't heard.
That is fine. You took the public protector's report on review. Now, which board meeting made a decision to take the public protector's report on review? And who was at the meeting? If you
I can't remember, but I know that there is evidence that members of the board voted on this one. I can't remember whether it was on a round-robin basis or what, but I know that a decision was taken.
So you are saying to us that as far as you can recollect, it was a legal decision made properly by a board of the SABC?
I believe so.
Thank you very much.
No, thanks, Mr. Mahlangu. Honorable.
Thank you. Chair, thank you. Prof, just for me to know, who are the shareholders of SABC?
Who are the shareholders of SABC? As far as I know, the Minister of the Department of Communication represents the shareholder of SABC, and I believe she is representing Parliament.
No. She definitely can't represent Parliament because she represents the executive. But anyway, no, the reason why I'm asking the question...
Thanks for that correction.
The reason why I'm asking the question is because earlier on when the lead investigator asked the question as to, with regards to the public purse, you said, no. SAP monies actually don't belong to the public. Now, I just wanted to know, who does the SAP monies belong to?
I said 85% is being raised from commercial deals, 13 from TV licenses, and 2 from government grants.
You're not answering the question?
That is the information that I have.
You're not answering the question? Who does it belong to? Having been raised, who does it belong to?
Since this is a state-owned enterprise, the money belongs to the state.
Who is the state? How does the state come about?
Who is the state? I said it comes about being represented by Parliament, and you said no.
No, you account to Parliament, including the government, the minister, the president accounts to Parliament. All of you, in terms of the Constitution, you account to Parliament, including for every cent that you spend at SABC, because that is a public purse. Now, the failure of you as chair to respond to this question adequately raises very important questions about the amount of losses that SABC has incurred. Now I understand that because only 13% come from the state, the rest you can do as you wish. I mean, only 3% you said come from this, from what did you say? It's you said 3% is what you get as a as what?
I said 2%.
Yes,
is what we get as government grants.
So
and I even said we account to Parliament, and I said the minister represents the shareholder, which is Parliament, and you said no. But that is what I initially said.
okay, no, I still missed the point. The minister represents government. You account to the Parliament together with the minister. Let's leave that argument and let's go to the next matter. We had several journalists here the other day. All of them were complaining that they have been let down by Parliament, by the minister, and by yourself, most of which have been fired, some of whom were suspended unlawfully. What is your take on the matter?
I want to say SABC employs over 4,000 staff members. It is hard to know on a daily basis who has been hired, who has been fired. But suffice to say, the journalists report to their managers, and this is not a board strategic matter. So it would be the managers and their seniors who would know what is taking place. But this was never brought to the board.
Is that so?
Yes.
I can't believe this.
No, it was never brought to the board.
So you don't know that senior journalists have been fired?
I don't know.
Okay.
Who are you referring to? Because if we say senior journalist, journalist or journalists have been fired, I don't even know who is senior, who is junior there.
There is a group called SABC 8. Do you know anything about them?
I heard about it over the radio, yes. But I don't know whether they are senior or they are junior. But this matter was never brought to the board that I'm leading, or that I was leading.
So it never concerns you that there was such a thing, an outcry?
It never concerns me.
Yes.
No, you see, it would concern me if I have facts from both sides. So as it is now, like I say, it was never brought to me. So I wouldn't even have known the merits or the demerits of this matter for them to have been fired or suspended. But like I say, this is an operational matter. It is not a board matter. If it was a board matter, I would have known about it, and definitely we could have discussed it in one of the board meetings.
The firing of board members? Do you know anything about that?
Pardon?
Firing of board members?
No, that one I know about it. I do.
And who's responsible for that?
The board was responsible for that. And we can produce evidence of what transpired and led to their expulsion. For instance, Ms. Kalidas would board the plane saying she's coming to a meeting and never appear. Or she would come to a meeting, stay for an hour, say she has an early flight, she goes, only to find that she never took the flight back home. And we do have that evidence. Mr. Lubisi was listed in 3 companies that were doing business with SABC as their auditor. This was never declared. And I don't recall him saying he's not their auditor. The evidence is there. I can go on and on and on and give you lots of things. Mr. Mavuso,
okay.
For instance.
Okay, leave them because we have...
In one sentence.
Okay.
He never declared that his daughter was doing an internship at SABC. Just a simple thing like that.
Last question.
Okay. You are aware that SABC is a national key point?
I am.
And you know what is expected of people in the national key point? You know that they have to be vetted.
I didn't hear you clearly.
I'm saying people who are responsible, senior managers in the national key point are supposed to be vetted.
Yes.
You know that?
I know.
Are they vetted?
Maybe
doesn't
that
concern the board.
No, maybe that you can ask the HR, because that's the responsibility of the HR to do so. I don't know.
You know the importance of being responsible for the national key point?
I do.
So the board is not interested in that matter.
No, I've never said the board is not interested, and I even suggested, not officially, company secretary can bail me out on this one, that even as board members, it's imperative that we are vetted.
Thank you very much. Can I just put one question? And you don't have to answer it now, Prof. I'm not sure if I understood you correctly when you answered Mr. Mahlangu by saying that it's the HR's responsibility to make sure that senior members are vetted. Let me remind you, sir, the accounting authority of the SABC is the board. And it is the board that is in charge of the day-to-day running of the affairs. So I'm not saying you say that, but if you referred or if you responded to Mr. Mahlangu by saying it's an HR responsibility and therefore we must go and ask HR, well, Parliament is going to ask the executive or it's going to ask the accounting authority. Ours is not about asking HR, and we expect the accounting authority to have on its fingertips everything that happens in that institution. Honorable Swartz.
Professor, you indicated that you're unaware of the SABC 8 or it's an operational issue. But is it not correct that they are involved in a constitutional court case relating to editorial policy and that the board must have had knowledge of a matter serving before the constitutional court?
All I know is that the editorial policy is there and it was served before the board.
But so you are unaware as the board chairman that there is a matter to be heard before the Constitutional Court involving the SABC?
About?
About editorial policy brought by the SABC 8 journalists.
No, what I've said is that I was not aware that, remember the question was saying, was I not concerned if I heard that they are mistreated and so on and so forth. And I said, this was not brought to the board. As such, I was not aware that they were mistreated, fired, and so on and so forth.
I'm going to have to interrupt you if you don't mind, Professor, because my time is very limited. So are you aware of the Constitutional Court case that has been brought by the SABC 8?
Yeah, I'm aware of that one.
Are you aware of the intimidation, the evidence that has been brought before us? In fact, one of the journalists was allegedly shot at. Are you aware of that?
I had it over the news.
Is it not a matter of great concern to you?
It is.
Have you done anything about it?
Other than that, we don't even know who the perpetrators are.
No, sorry, Professor. It's incumbent upon you to follow up and at least ask questions from your directors and executives as to what is going on this issue. But let's leave it at that. My time is limited. I want to raise the issue of procurement, the changes in procurement policy. My daughter, Shushu, you know him?
I do.
Former group executive, head of procurement. He gave evidence this morning that is very disturbing about changes in procurement policies. As procurement leadership, he detected payments being effected without official commitment, payment without fulfillment, irregular contractual obligations, potential leadership abuse, deliberately excluding procurement custodian, that is his team and his GMs, the GM of operations, the GM of strategic sourcing. They were all suspended. Are you aware of that? Were you aware of that?
No.
But you were a board member. Surely you should have been aware of that.
No, if it was brought to my attention, I would have been
I'm sorry,
aware.
Prof. This was in November 2015.
Yes,
what was
but-
your position? Were you chairman then?
Yeah, I was.
But then how can you not know about this?
No,
This is totally unacceptable.
can I respond, please?
Yes.
He's talking about things that were never brought to our attention as the board. Secondly, there is a committee called Finance, Investment and Procurement Committee. Even that committee never tabled something like that before the board. And it would have been through this committee that we knew that something like that was happening.
Okay, Professor. The CEO and the CFO announced the board's decision to effectively change the procurement reporting lines from CEO to the CFO. That is a board decision. You would have chaired that board decision. So how can you not know about this?
I can't recall that one.
But the board's decision was announced, effectively placing procurement in the hands of Mr. Motsoeneng and the CFO. That led, according to Mr. Shushu, to 100 million rands being processed without proper process. Surely that is a matter of great concern to you.
Yeah, it's a matter of great concern, but like I said, I was not aware of that. I'm hearing this for the first time.
Are you aware of the controversy surrounding the studio, the World Cup rugby studio, and the costs incurred in that?
I'm not aware. I'm not aware of the controversy.
What are you aware of, Professor Maguvhe?
Pardon?
What were you aware of? You understand our dilemma here. You, as chairperson of the board, do not seem to be aware of major issues of irregular expenditure relating to what is alleged 100 million rand that must have been approved by the board that you were chairing.
Let me respond by saying, if that was approved by the board, surely we have that resolution. But like I say, there are things that you are saying to me now that I wasn't aware of. And I'm telling the honest truth.
Chairperson, could I just put it to you that were you similarly browbeaten by other members, such as the COO, as the company secretary has alleged? Do you understand what I mean by browbeaten by other people to comply?
Forward person. If I don't like something, I say it there and there. And I believe that we also have records where I might have raised my concerns in meetings.
Thank you, Prof. Could I just ask you then, the multi-choice contract that was entered into by the interim board and that Mr. Motsoeneng, I presume with the board approval, entered into, resulting in the exclusive usage of the SABC archives and a substantial bonus to Mr. Motsoeneng of between 11 million and 33 million. We're not sure. Were you aware of that?
I wouldn't be the right person to comment about things that happened prior my appointment.
But the payment of the bonus was at a time when you were either a member of the board or the chairman of the board.
I was dealing with the first part of your question.
I'm sorry, I've got limited time, so my apologies for interrupting you. Please continue.
Yeah. The bonus that was paid, I'm aware of it, though the amount that is being said, I don't know whether it is what we are saying. I don't have the figures, but all I know is that this was served at the Governance and Nominations Committee after receiving a motivation from the GCEO, and the committee fully cooperated, and a resolution was taken.
You mean the board or the
No,
committee?
the DEF also gives the Governance and Nominations Committee to take certain decisions.
Does that committee report to the board then?
Yeah, it does.
And then you then would confirm that decision?
Yeah,
So you were aware of
So-
that?
I was.
Okay, thank
Thanks,
you,
Mr.
Prof. I'm out of time. Thank you
Thanks,
very
Mr.
much.
Swartz. Prof, just for the record, Mr. Swartz's question to you about the multi-choice deal. Could you just repeat your answer when he asked you, were you aware of it? What was your response?
The question, please.
Mr. Swartz asked you about the multi-choice deal that was concluded. I think you said during the interim period or something like that, and were you aware of it? And I want, if you don't mind, to repeat your response to Mr. Swartz.
I said when the deal was concluded, I was not yet appointed to serve on the board.
When were you appointed to serve on the board, sir?
I was appointed to serve on the board on the 25th of September 2013.
I have before me a certified, a true extract of the minutes of the 29th of January 2015, signed by Teresa Geldenes. And it says, the channel distribution agreement with MultiChoice Africa to launch the entertainment channel with effect from the 1st of March 2015 be and is hereby approved at a cost of 264 million rand. And it goes on. Approval be and is hereby given to mandate the GE Television and the head of legal to sign documents. And this thing is dated the 29th of January 2015. Mr. Swartz, is this the same deal that we're talking about? Now, if that is the same deal we're talking about, you, the chairperson of the board, this is a true certification of minutes signed by Mrs. Geldenes. How do you tell the people of South Africa and Parliament that you know nothing about it because it happened before your time?
The Honorable Mr. Swart referred to an interim committee. That is what I was responding to.
The interim board entered negotiations with MultiChoice. It was finalized by the final board, as I understand it.
It's fine. Let's put it to you differently. I'm sorry then, Professor. Let's put it to you differently. What do you know, and we're not talking about the rands and cents at this point, just in terms of the approval process, what role did the board play in this process? As I'm saying to you, I have a document that is purportedly an extract of the minutes of the 29th of January 2015. It gives approval for an agreement between MultiChoice and SABC, I would imagine, to enter into agreement. It further approval be and hereby given to mandate the GE Television and the head of legal to sign the documents. The question that I'm asking you, are you aware of this? Was it signed by GE Legal and was it signed by GE Television? What do you know about this board approval of the 29th of January 2015 what was it referring to? I'm not interested in the rands and cents. I'm just looking at the process, because we must make sure, sir, that the board approval, let's be upfront with this matter. Was the board approval after the contract was signed, or was the board approval before the contract was signed, so that it gave approval? Because it says here we give approval to the GE television and the GE head. Now, just from a board point of view, do you go to a board meeting, approve, give authority to somebody to do it, or did somebody do it and the board approved retrospectively? Just if you could tell us what you understand of this. We'll get into the detail at an appropriate time. How do you understand this deal? Or what is this minute saying to me of the 29th of January 2015? What are you saying to us? What happened there, and what were you trying to fix up?
Honestly speaking, I can't remember. So I don't want even want to attempt to give as a response which would not be the truth.
Who is next? It was Khoza. Let me just say this to you, Prof. I really sympathize with you. I really sympathize with you, because this that I have says an extract of the board meeting signed by the company secretary who was here before us. You have no understanding about it. We're talking about 260 million rand. Ms. Khoza.
Yeah, che, kuyasinda kuyehlela sisho njalo thina qhamuka lapha KwaZulu-Natal. Prof, maybe let me start on a very positive note and congratulate you, sir, and salute you for having defied all odds. I can see that you have at least 2 cum laudes next to your name, and I think that should be commended. But, Prof, I'm just trying to understand the person who is leading our South African Broadcasting Corporation. How can such an accomplished man accept and be comfortable with having somebody without a metric to be the Chief Operations Officer? Did you get my question, sir?
I want to say that the person in question, as I've said earlier, we were convinced he has leadership qualities, and that is what we believed.
Do you still believe that?
Unless if I can be proven otherwise, because from where I am, I think he does get things right, and I believe anyone, even if you are good at something, you might as well have challenges.
Okay, at least we've established that you and I don't belong to the same world. But anyway, let me just proceed. Prof, do you ever own up when you have erred? Yes or no?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Do you think there is something wrong at SABC? Or you think there is nothing wrong at that institution?
I do think there's something wrong with SABC.
Okay, what are those things, sir?
First and foremost, what I think is wrong with SABC, I don't think that most of the people who are there are loyal to SABC itself. To give an example, you would discuss things and 1 minute later you get calls to verify a leak or leaks. Further, the other thing that I think is not done correct, and I even joked to say, if I was, I had powers, I would definitely chase everyone and and employ new people, because I think people do as they please there.
Okay, Chair, sir. As a chair of the board, let's just do a very quick self-assessment test. In a score of 1 being poor and 10 being excellent, as a chair of the board, how would you rate your understanding of good corporate governance? Anywhere between 1 to 10.
I'd give myself 8.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, sir. Okay. Now, Chair, what the other thing I just need to establish from you, sir, the litigations at SABC, did they ever worry you at some stage that, you have the exodus of skills at senior management level, and the fact that the board had, or SABC alternatively, had to settle and pay these people, what do you call them, handshakes? Did that ever bother you, sir, as a chair of the board? Or is it part of those you were happy because you want to get rid of everybody so that you can start all over again?
No, it bothered me. And the lady sitting next to me knows that I also had conversations with her along those lines.
So you are therefore retracting your earlier assertion that if you had the way, you would actually restart that organization because the staff there are disloyal, people do as they please, and so forth?
No, I'm not retracting it because what I'm saying is that, yes, I get bothered if something in relation to employees leaving our employ in numbers. It does bother me. And I've said we shouldn't confuse it with what I've said in relation to having to sack everybody. Because you see, sometimes for you to clean that place, you need new people.
So you would bring Motsoeneng, for instance, as the group CEO, because you need to be convinced otherwise.
Pardon?
You would bring Hlaudi Motsoeneng as the group CEO in your ideal world so that you can correct everything that is wrong at SABC, because he seems to be ranking very high in your own assessment.
What I'm saying is that everybody is entitled to apply for any position. If that person meets the requirements, then he can be employed.
Okay, thank you. The next thing, Prof, I just want there's something that really bothers me. Maybe I won't have time to go to the multi-choice contract because I heard that you are saying you don't know most of the things you don't know. And I am worried about being led by somebody who doesn't know. And that worries me. And maybe as members of parliament we'll have to decide on that. Do you understand Chapter 2, Section 16 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, which deals with specifically freedom of expression and freedom of the press and other media.
I do.
So, in your
Thank
view,
you.
thank you.
Honorable
I rest my
Noliwe.
case. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Prof, when the AG came to see us, they indicated that you signed the AG's report. And they further allude to the fact that despite their recommendations, SABC does as they please, citing that even in the report you signed, the supply chain management refused to give them some documents. Can you shed light on that allegation?
I won't be able to shed light on that allegation because this is not the information that I had. And maybe it strengthens my view that I need documents in Braille. I might have read it in Word, but maybe forgotten, but I can't remember that one.
Can you share with us the information you have about the issues I've just mentioned? Because you said it's not the information you have.
What should I say, Honorable?
You said what I was saying the AG is alleging is not the information you have.
Yes.
Can you share with us the information you have about the two areas? One, that supply chain refused to give them some documents. Number two, despite recommendations, SABC continues with business as usual.
I'm not too sure whether there is a board member who was aware of this supply chain management problem. Like I'm saying, I'm hearing it for the first time. I might have, when engaging the document, I might have not picked that one up. And the second part of your question was about?
Despite recommendations, though nothing is implemented to rectify what was condemned.
I would say the board was in the process of rectifying that. And if you would recall, this current board is only left with one qualification. So I believe that we have got processes in place to rectify that one.
When Mr. Khumalo spoke to us, he spoke of ill discipline among board members, management, and failure by the board to call the executives to order. If this is true, Prof, why did you allow it to be like that? You are heading that ship at SABC. Why let things go as it is alluded here?
I am on record calling people to order. For instance, Ms. Hilden Hayes gave an example that there was a problem between her and Ms. Mhlakaza. And I placed that on record that I cannot allow a board member to ill-treat the company secretary. That is just an example. But there are many instances where I called members to order. And I believe if this committee wants evidence, it can be provided.
We'll gladly accept it. Then Mr. Khumalo also in his statement is saying the congested pipeline of issues, too many of the issues land on the board's table and board meetings do not allow significant time to cover everything in one session. I want to tie that with what was presented by Ms. Geldenhuys. She has given us a table here of meetings that never occurred. For instance, if I take the first example given there, there was a board meeting on the 27th of February 2014 that did not correlate, but proposals from that meeting were ratified in July 2014. What happened in between? Because you have decisions that have no status that were ratified in July. What then happened during that gap?
That one I cannot respond to. I was not the chairperson, so I don't want to lie to this committee.
Can you rehash, Prof, when did you become a chairperson?
19th of June 2015. That was when I became chairperson and not acting chairperson.
One other thing I want to check from you, Prof. You said when you were responding to Ms. Koza's question, I would chase everyone and start from scratch. Is that a reason that from the non-executive you are left alone? Is it because you are comfortable to be left alone there?
I'm not comfortable, Honorable. The reason why I'm left alone is that, first and foremost, it's not that I wanted to be, as media refers to it, what do they say? One man standing. I didn't want to become that. But I'm standing because I believe that I was using all my abilities and knowledge to steer the SABC to the right direction, but also to say I didn't appoint myself. If the appointing authority, which is Parliament, says go and they give me that letter, I will. But as I'm here before this committee, I don't have that letter yet.
Can you educate the South Africans what constitutes a board, Prof?
What constitutes a board?
Yes, Prof.
Is where the board has board members. And this one, I believe it has got board members, but maybe what lacks is the right number for the board to correct.
No, thank you, that's up. Before you start, Ms. Van Dam, Prof, even if you take the worst case scenario that we say executive and non-executive board members, let's take that broad one. In your executive board members, you've got an acting COO. You've got an acting CEO. You've got an acting CFO. You alone as the non-executive. So even if we took the worst case scenario, all those people who we would ordinarily declare as executive element of, all of them are acting. And you say to the chair, to Loliwe, that a board is made up of members. I'm suggesting to you that all those that are acting really are, we can't regard them as members. They are acting, and I'm just saying that we must understand the gravity that we're facing within South Africa, or with the SABC. We have one individual, everybody else acting. So I don't want you to answer it. When we get to the closing stage, Prof, I think we must, as adults, decide how we take this process forward, because we cannot continue to put our head in the sand and pretend all is well at the SABC. Honorable Van Dam.
Thanks, Chair. You know, Prof, I was one of the people you went to court about to remove from this committee because you thought I'd be biased against you and I'd been mean to you, or whatever it was. I came here today with an open mind. I wanted to hear you defend yourself and assure us that you've done your very best, but you have not done that, with all due respect, sir. Every question, I am not aware, I wasn't there, I don't know, or you change your position and you mislead this committee. What on earth have you been doing as the chairperson of the SABC board? And why on earth should we keep you on that board if you do not know any of the major issues facing the SABC? Why must the public continue to pay you a salary for that job?
Yeah, I will respond to what I've done. Because I said, the last part of your question, I said Parliament is the appointing authority, if I'm not mistaken, or would recommend to the appointing authority to terminate my services. That is what I've said. But what I've done, and I will say this with pride, under my leadership, the number of qualifications that we received from the Auditor General were drastically reduced. To me, we had an SABC that was stable financially, and we also, on a piloting basis, introduced new channels so that when we migrate to DTT, we are sentient of the challenges and other things. For us, it's a learning curve. So it's a lot that we have achieved under my leadership, but I cannot respond to the issue of why you cannot dismiss me, that I don't have an answer to. And I've also given answers to various things. Unless if, Honorable Van Dam, you expected me to lie. I didn't do so. And if I say some of the things I can't remember, I cannot remember. I was listening to other witnesses giving evidence here. There are things that they forgot.
Sir, you didn't say I forgot. You said I am not aware. You were asked about the multi-choice deal.
There are things that I said I didn't know.
Please don't interrupt me. The multi-choice deal, you said you're not aware. SABC 8, I was not aware. What were the other ones? AG report, when Honorable Loliwe asked you about the specific section about it, I was not aware. And quite frankly, the two things you mentioned as successes, the audit outcomes, the SABC's audit outcomes have regressed over the last couple of years. Digital migration, that process has stalled. The SABC missed an international deadline. So quite frankly, those are not successes. But moving on. You said you would not lie to this committee. I followed quite closely the process with your interdict, and I read all the documents because I was listed as a respondent. Your advocate in the Western Cape High Court was very clear that it was in your personal capacity. In fact, the SABC only joined the case much later on. They submitted a responding affidavit. At the initial hearing, the SABC said they weren't even sure whether they were going to join the case. So why would you mislead this committee and say that you didn't know whether or not it was in your personal capacity when your very advocate, which I'm assuming received the brief from you, said you were there in your personal capacity?
I'm not misleading this House because when I was invited as the chairperson. So to me, if I take a matter to court...
I'm not talking about how you're invited in this committee. You said you were not sure whether in that case you were appearing in your personal capacity or as the chairperson. Your advocate said very clearly, and the SABC's advocate, in fact, that it was in your personal capacity. The SABC's advocate said they did not have a mandate from the board to appear on behalf of the SABC. Please, sir, don't try and mislead me.
I have said, and I will say it again, issues that I don't know, I would say I don't know. If that is what they said, that I'm acting in my personal capacity, I'm hearing it for the first time. They are here. You can, especially the SABC legal team, you can ask them why they believe that I'm doing it in my personal capacity.
Okay.
Or even maybe the advocates thereafter, after this exercise, I think you can, as well as the committee, engage them why they gave that response.
Yeah, it's quite clear that, Chairperson, you don't know very much, including about matters where you're being represented in court. Are you aware of a car being purchased by the SABC for your use, an Audi?
I am aware.
On what basis would the SABC purchase you a car?
It is not my car. It is not registered under my name. It is the SABC car.
But for your use?
What happened is that there were instances where we were using shuttles to take me from point A to point B. And there are really instances where after the meeting adjourned, say at 3 o'clock, because of the availability or not thereof of the shuttle services, I would go home around 7, 8 o'clock.
Okay, I got it. What kind of car was it? An Audi A8, I believe. That's top of the range, top drawer, fancy car.
You are asking a wrong person.
You don't know? Okay, no
No,
problem.
no.
Don't.
All I'm trying to say is that I wouldn't tell you whether it's top of the range or not, because I don't have that ability to compare.
Who signed off the purchase of that car for you?
The executive, I believe, have signed.
Not the
board.
board.
But this was also brought before the board.
All right, thanks.
And I think it is minuted.
All right, thank you. I've got so many more questions. All right, and I'm trying to decide which one I want to ask. Were you aware, have you, in your capacity as board chair or in any other way, ever met with any representatives of the Gupta family or any of their businesses, the New Age, ANN7, any of their businesses? Have you ever met with them?
I've never met with them. I have, however, received invitations to their breakfast shows, and I've never attended.
And did you ever approve any contracts with the Guptas? Was the contract, for example, with the TNA breakfast briefings? Did you approve that deal?
As the board?
Yebo.
Me?
Yes.
As the board?
I don't have the powers to approve.
Okay.
It
As a
is
board
the board
member
that approves.
It's fine. Thanks. You'll get a second bite. Thanks. Just so that we don't lose, because we're transcribing. Prof, when Ms. Van Dam asked you or made the statement that you appeared in court in your personal capacity, did you say that we must engage with the legal team because you understood it differently?
Yeah, that is what I'm saying, that the legal team that represented me must be engaged.
It's fine. You know, I don't know what to say, Prof. not to you. Honestly, not to you, Prof. Because what you're saying to me is so worrying, because I'm not sure if you are aware that the court has ordered you to pay out of your personal pocket, because your legal team went to court and said you're doing this in your personal capacity. That's what your legal team said. You're doing it in your personal capacity, and the court ordered that you pay it out of your pocket. You come here and it's not an aspersion on you, sir. You come here and you say we need to talk to your legal team. I don't know who's misleading you, Prof. And I don't know if we don't arrest this thing now, how much personal problems you're going to be in, because it seems that this SABC team, if the Prof is being correct, this SABC team are actually sabotaging the professor. He's not aware that this is in his personal capacity. The lawyers representing him haven't said that to him. Senior leadership of the SABC, as the Prof says, talk to the senior leadership of the SABC, it's almost a week later. You've not corrected that with the professor. You've not corrected it with the professor that actually, Professor, this is out of your own pocket. Prof, I'm not sure if you are aware you're going for an appeal. And the basis of that appeal would be probably out of your own pocket. If you fail in the appeal, and I'm not prejudging, if you fail in the appeal, it would mean that there are 2 cases out of your own pocket. And the Prof says here he's not sure because the legal team of the SABC must clarify it. It's an indictment on the SABC. Honestly, Prof, I'm not taking your side, but if what you're saying to us is correct, we have a problem with the SABC legal team if what the professor is saying is correct. That he's not aware that these things are being done in his personal capacity. Chauke.
Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity. Ndabo Maguvhe.
Ndaundo.
What do you done?
Everyone but Chauke, honorable.
The problems of a SABC, you'll agree with me, Prof, that they've been there before even you became a board member or the chairperson of the board. Prof, do you agree with me?
Yes.
Now that you agree with me that there are problems, you are now sitting in front of those problems, Prof. The board that you were appointed with has collapsed. Do you agree with me, Prof?
I do.
Do you agree with me, Prof, that there's no longer accounting authority of the SABC?
I do.
Do you agree with me, Prof, that Section 15AB gives Parliament to remedy the situation?
I do.
Now, having listened to, as we have just confirmed, that you have been listening to witnesses as they appear before this committee, there's a witness that spoke of fraud, corruption, mismanagement at the public broadcaster. Are you aware of that, Prof?
I'm not aware because this matter was never brought to the board. So I'm hearing it for the first time.
The reason that it was not brought to the board, Prof, is because there's no board.
But then the question would be, when did the things that the witness is alluding to start? Obviously, I believe that they have started a long time ago, because the board that you are referring to which we are saying is not existing. We are talking about things that happened 2 or 3 weeks ago. So maybe if we know the period this individual is referring to, I might be able to give you the right answer.
When last did the board collate, Prof?
To me, when last? I know that before the 5th of October, the board was collating.
When last did it cease to collate?
I said the 5th of October, Honorable.
Have you taken this issue with the principal, meaning that the shareholder?
Yes.
That now that as a chair, formally, that now as the chair of the board, you want to bring the attention to the shareholder that the accounting authority has now ceased to exist?
Yes, I did call her, Honorable.
And what did you say about yourself in that situation?
No, but I obviously I told her about the situation. At that time when I called, we were still, I think, 7 members. It was after the departure of the 2 board members, Mr. Maguvhe and Mr. Naidu. I did call her.
In your view, Prof, what is it that must be done to resolve the defect currently? Of the board, in particular the accounting authority?
I wouldn't dictate to Parliament as to what it should do. Obviously, I believe that you know what to do.
Okay. Now, thank you very much, Prof. The problems of the board that has now ceased to exist, the executive, which is all members that are acting currently, is limping because of the outcome of the court obvious on the Motsoeneng case. The issue of the journalist, which is your staff, which appeared here, I think you have listened to them, you have heard their cries. What is your view on that, Prof?
Honestly speaking, I didn't listen to them.
So you don't know anything about that?
No, because I was as well preparing myself. So that would have distracted me.
As a loyal citizen, highly qualified, well-respected person in this country, what is your view on this standoff? Not only the standoff that has happened with regard to you having to call a press conference and an official employee of the broadcaster, an employee, calling a parliament a kangaroo court. What is your view, Prof? Because it will not happen. Let me just make it very clear that if an intention is to undermine parliament to an extent that these problems that we have spoken about, Prof, that started even before you come into the picture, have now gone as far as to the to the ordinary staff of SABC. I just want to make it very clear, Prof, it will never happen again. Not in our time, not at the time when some of us are deployed here, that we are undermined by an official that laughs after that. He laughs after that and then says that I've apologized there on what? It is not going to happen, Prof. This freedom that we enjoy today, we fought for. It did not come over a plate. And no one is going to destroy this freedom, Prof. I want to make it very clear, Prof. No one is going to take away this freedom from South Africans. So my point, Prof, is that with respect, and I'm worried that what I see, Prof, is that there are people who are taking advantage of your presence as a standalone board member now and do wrong things. Will you agree with me on that point, Prof?
I will agree with you, Honorable. But I must also say, if you listened to my press briefings, I've always conducted myself professionally. So I believe what you have said is true, and I had thought that the person apologized, but I haven't seen him laughing. You are now making me aware of that.
Well, my response, Chair, is that we are a republic. We are not the banana republic. The standoff will have to come to an end. Obviously, Chair will deal with our recommendations moving forward. But thank you very much. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Chauke and Honourable Killian.
Thank you, Chairperson. Prof, through the Chairperson, can you recall the process through which you were appointed as a board member of the SABC? On the basis of which law was your appointment done? And can you remember the detail of the individuals and how they need to subscribe to, committed to the objects and principles in the charter of the corporation and all of that? Can you remember that process? Can you just tell us in terms of which law was that conducted?
The Broadcasting Act.
Prof, can you then explain to us if the appointment was done in terms of the Broadcasting Act, and the Broadcasting Act also makes provision for the removal of the board as an entire entity or any board member, on what basis did you allow a process to unfold under your chairmanship in March last year to remove 3 very capable members of the board? On what basis did you allow that to happen? What did you do to obtain legal advice to ensure that you were doing it in an appropriate manner?
Yeah, we sought legal advice, and they were removed based on both the Broadcasting Act and the Companies Act, but legal advice was sought. And we also had evidence, unless if this committee wants to tell me that I should have allowed people to commit fraud and not to declare their interest and so on and so forth, which the very same acts, I believe, advise board members to.
I want to put it to you, Prof, that you have been misled. And unfortunately, there is an imminent court case. One of the board members has taken the matter to court, and obviously those members who have voted in favor of an irregular removal, and it was not done on the basis of the Broadcasting Act. The Broadcasting Act is very clear. This is an inquiry into the suitability, the effectiveness of a board in terms of the Broadcasting Act. And only the same accounting authority, Parliament, can appoint through, obviously, the appointing authority. We present a list of names, and Parliament will recommend to the appointing authority should members be found to be not abiding by the tenets of the Broadcasting Act. So, just as far as that is concerned. Chair, the second point that I want to ask the Honourable Prof. We have heard a lot about the Memorandum of Incorporation. And we were informed that it was, in fact, compiled, the amendments were compiled by the shareholder. What did the board do? Because the board is, in terms of the Companies Act, responsible for the article, and the Broadcasting Act, responsible for the Articles of Association and Memorandum of Incorporation. Clearly, if we go through the Memorandum of Incorporation, anybody can see that that Memorandum of Incorporation is illegal and flies in the face of the Broadcasting Act, specifically as far as the hiring and firing of senior management is concerned. That, Honourable Prof, is the reason why you're not aware of what is happening in the organisation with the purging. So, on what basis, what did you do when the memorandum of incorporation was presented to the board?
I know that it was extensively discussed. Members of the board made inputs and then approved.
Prof, that was not the information that we've received through these proceedings, but we will leave it at that. Then I would like to get to the Public Protector report. You were indicating that you were participating in the meeting of the 7th of July, and the minutes also reflect your participation. Now, a heated discussion took place at that stage because it was after the release of the Public Protector report, and members of the board expressed their concern. You've already indicated that you supported the decision for the appointment of the COO. So, subsequently, it was ostensibly, there was a decision to review the Public Protector. After there was partial implementation because the DC was appointed to investigate Mr. Motsoeneng. Can you please tell us at which meeting did the board decide to have a review of the Public Protector report?
I wouldn't have the exact date, but all I know is that as the board, we took a decision to review. And when I checked, almost all the members agreed that this report should be taken on review.
You see, what is important for us is to know at what stage, but I suppose during the process it will come out. When did the board agree on a disciplinary, and when did the board decide to almost rescind its decision to have partial implementation and to appoint and to ask to go for a review? Because the timing and the chronological order of that is going to be very important in the course of things to come. So can you just recall more or less, was the one before the other? Can you please tell us?
If I'm not mistaken, the review came before. Let me think. All I know is that the disciplinary took place last year in December. As to the exact date in which this decision was taken, I'm not sure, but I inquired from the company secretary as to whether this was served at the board level, and it was served, and people voted in favor of the review.
Yes. Chair, can the Professor please tell us the appointment of Lucky Tsikiso to take Parliament on an interdict application to court? Who took that decision? Where was it taken? What entity? Was it taken at there was no board. So when did you hear about it? Did you request that? Are they on the suppliers list? What is the position of this company of lawyers?
Before I respond to that one, I must say the notice that I received to me was ambiguous, in the sense that if I am told that I'm entitled to legal representation, and it never says, I believe it says, and the SABC or the board will carry the costs. I think that is what it said. But now, I'm getting confused if at times I'm told that I'm doing this in my personal capacity, whilst the committee knew that there was no board. But having said that, I also alluded to the fact that the DEF gave the executive certain powers. And I even remember saying that perhaps the legal team engaged the executive to authorize that, but I don't have that information. I'm just thinking.
Thanks, Ms. Killian. Prof, I've got just two questions. Are you aware, Prof, that sometime in 2014, and I'm saying this following what was raised by my colleagues around your statement of reskilling or finding new employees. Are you aware that there was a skills audit done by Price Waterhouse around about 2014?
Yes.
And are you aware that that skills audit was subsequently presented to the portfolio committee and discussed at the portfolio committee in 2014?
Yes.
Prof, are you aware that this company, Hlaudi Motsoeneng, wrote to us on the 6th of December and said to us, the following documents will not be provided on the basis of its privilege, and its disclosure may negatively impact on the commercial interests of the SABC. And one of those documents that it says will impact on the commercial interests of the SABC is the skills audit. Are you in agreement with that?
In agreement with?
The fact that if that skills audit report of Price Waterhouse was given to this ad hoc committee, it would negatively impact on the commercial interests of the SABC. Are you aware that that was what Hlaudi Motsoeneng said to this portfolio committee? And if you were aware of it, do you agree with them?
I think we have retracted that by sending the document to the committee. That means that we eventually realized that it did not fall in that category that you are referring to.
Prof, this ad hoc committee has not received any retraction letter to that effect. Let's say that first. So as we sit here, this legal firm that wrote this letter to Parliament continues to hold in terms of official letter that we have here. Cindy wants to show me something, but I'm saying in terms of what we have here, we have not received that letter. That it's for commercial interests. And if that is the case, somebody must send it to us on a letterhead that you are retracting. That's the first point, Prof. The second point, somebody must tell this company called Hlaudi Motsoeneng that you can't on the 6th say to us, you're not going to give us that document. Parliament then goes through the process of issuing a summons at cost. At cost, delivers the summons for this document. And today somebody says to this committee, we've retracted it. At cost. Who's going to pay the cost of that document that we have, the court case that we are, not the court case, the summons that we had to go through? The fact that we don't have the document to prepare adequately for the minister tomorrow. And today somebody comes and says to us, sorry, on the 6th we said we're not going to give it to you. Subsequently we've retracted. And you expect Parliament to do ineffective oversight when we meet with the Minister tomorrow. It can't be acceptable that Parliament is treated in this fashion. It can't be. And let me put it on record, this organization called Lucky Tsikiso cannot get away with this kind of thing, Chauke. Cannot get away with this kind of thing. At the expense of taxpayers' money, at the expense of this committee sitting here until 8 o'clock last night, until this time, and just retract something as serious as denying Parliament documents. It can't. So I don't know who is, Prof, talking to these people, because they say in this letter, we have received instructions. I don't know who they're talking about when they say we have received instructions. Can I advise those people that are instructing Lucky Tsikiso to relay the attitude of this committee to how they've treated Parliament from day one until today? This organization called Lucky Tsikiso. Because, Prof, quite frankly, it is not acceptable that we work on the basis of that. On the 6th, I don't have a document. Today you come to the committee and you say, but Chair, subsequently we withdrawn it. And I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying it can't be the way we operate in Parliament. It can't be the way that this institution is treated. It can't be. And I'm appealing to this committee that says something has to be done, honourable members. Something has to be done. That Parliament can be taken for a ride like this. That the professor can sit here thinking that he's acting in some capacity as a member of the board, and we know, and Judge Desai indicated that he's here in his personal capacity. There's an appeal that is probably somewhere in the pipeline, Professor. Probably you're under the impression that this thing is going to be covered by somebody. And at the end of the day, you could sit with two major legal bills, Professor. You could sit with two major bills. You're sitting under the impression that it's being done, because I can tell you, and I don't know if anybody can confirm, but this was in the professor's personal capacity. Personal capacity, Prof. I really appeal to you to talk to somebody to try and assist you in this regard, because I don't want a situation where you sit with a major bill under the impression that it's being paid for by the SABC or any other entity. And at the end of the day, it's going to be paid for by Professor Maguvhe in his personal capacity. I do think something needs to happen, honourable members. Professor Maguvhe, thank you very much for availing yourself. As we have said to all other members that have appeared before this committee, your session might be over today. This committee is scheduled to work until the 28th of February. If between today and the 28th of February there's anything that you want to bring to our attention, Prof, please feel free to do so. Our door will always be open between today and the 28th. If there's anything that you suddenly realize you want to sort out or you want to bring to our attention to assist Parliament in its work, please do so between now and the 28th. However, Professor, if we don't see you until the new year, may you have a Merry Christmas and may you have a prosperous New Year, sir. Meeting is adjourned. We will meet tomorrow at 9:30 in this venue. Thank you very much. And members, please go to where you were at lunchtime. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned.
And what you saw there were live pictures from Parliament. That was the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee into the SABC's affairs and the SABC Board's fitness to hold office. Professor Mbulaheni Maguvhe was testifying. Earlier we saw the Company Secretary, Teresa Geldenhuys, also being grilled by various MPs about the compliance issues here at the public broadcaster.
Yeah, and earlier in the day, you'd have seen a former board member, Bongani Khumalo, also testifying. So it was another busy day, and one that generated quite a lot of interest across the country. If social media can be used as a barometer for that, and I'm sure that will continue to be a talking point, and we'll continue to have coverage of this very important inquiry into the SABC's fitness to be in office.
As the chairperson was saying there, that ad hoc committee will resume its hearings tomorrow at 9:30, and we'll bring you rolling coverage here on SABC.
Right, in the meantime, Independent Police Investigative Director